Hey everyone, this is the video introduction for Chapter 10, the soup stage. So I just wanted to go over a few things with you before you read the chapter. This is kind of a weird one. We're getting to the end of the section on butterflies, and it actually starts with a new character named Satoshi Tajiri. And he's actually the founder of Pokemon, which I'm sure is a video game series you've all heard of. So why the heck is it in a book about wild animals? Well, John, the author, uses Pokemon to introduce the idea of taxonomy, which is the scientific idea that you can sort living things, animals, plants, fungi, etc., into categories, okay? And that's very easy. In Pokemon, you have this type of species, which shoots lightning bolts, and this type, which breathes fire, but in the natural world, taxonomy is a lot more complicated. So, in real science, taxonomy follows what's called the species definition, which basically means that any group of organisms, in this case animals, who can reproduce with each other and have babies qualify as the same species. So in this section, that species is called the Lang's metalmark butterfly. It's a type of butterfly. They all look roughly the same. They can all reproduce with each other and have babies. The problem is taxonomy is not always that simple. For example, later in the chapter, they discuss a similar butterfly that lives nearby on Mount Diablo that looks exactly the same. Does that count as the same species? Well, genetically, the DNA is actually not the same, but they look almost exactly the same. So anyone counting them would probably qualify that butterfly as a Lang's metalmark. Elsewhere, near the Antioch Dunes, there are very genetically similar butterflies that don't look the same. Does that count as a Lang's metalmark? They could probably breed together. They could probably have offspring. Does that count as the same species? So John finds out that the definition of species gets very blurry as he goes through this chapter, which makes a law like the Endangered Species Act very complicated. What are we trying to protect? Are we trying to protect these butterflies that live in this place? Or are we trying to protect this look of butterfly or these genes in the butterfly? It all becomes very, very messy and confusing. So John's interviewing a man named Jerry Powell, and he learns about all that, and he's very confused, just like the reader is supposed to be very confused. And the chapter ends with revisiting the man we were introduced to earlier called Rudy Mattoni. Mattoni is no longer a scientist. He gave up on conservation. Now he's an artist living in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And John finds him and talks to him and learns that Mattoni is really depressed and dejected about the whole idea of conserving species. He doesn't think it's possible anymore. He thinks it's a waste of time and energy. He's really given up on protecting the natural world. However, John questions whether or not he's given up totally. I'm not going to give away why. But as you're reading chapter 10, look at the character of Rudy Mattoni and ask yourself that question. Has he truly given up on endangered species? The chapter ends with our last butterfly count at Antioch Dunes. John is there, of course, and you're going to find out just how many Lang's metalmark are left. If you weren't already depressed, you might be after that section. And then, that's the end of the chapter. And on Friday, we will start reading Part 3, Birds. This is my favorite section of the entire book. It's about an endangered species of birds called the whooping crane. Good luck and happy reading.